Let's take a look at an example of Dominant Local Optima. But before we do, two more lessons learned about Dominant Local Optima. If you only get one local perspective of a system, its local optimum will seem completely reasonable. And if you're asked to do an Agile transformation, you have to look at the complete software development system and the complete corporate system that it works within. Well, I was part of an Agile transformation at a Fortune 100 company. They asked me to go into one of the divisions of the organization and try to help them out. Well, when I showed up, we had a local hands-on meeting, and this was my perceived view of the people in the meeting. They all seemed to be thrilled to have me there. Well, it didn't take long for me to realize that there was a huge struggle going on with inside that organization. The product team was happy to have me there because they were hoping that I would fix the development team. And the development team was happy to have me there because they were expecting me to fix the product team. Well, this is the product's perspective, the product team's perspective of what was going on. And we're using a value stream map here. In this value stream map, we see that the product team writes the specs, and it takes them about a week to do that. And there's about a 1 week gap between the product team writing the specs and the development team working on the code, and that's because the development team had to wait until the next iteration in order to get the work done, and they were working on 2 week iterations. But from the product's perspective, it would take months before something would actually get into production. And they found that completely unreasonable. So product's response was, well, they created something called Shadow IT in their own production environment. And they were able to get stuff into what they considered to be a production environment in a matter of weeks, not a matter of months. How do you think that went over in the organization? Well, this is what was going on in the actual value stream. Now, this is a simplified version of the value stream, but you can see that there's many steps going on with inside of the delivery of the software into production. But let's drill down a little bit and take a look at a very specific portion of it. Those steps that there's weeks between the actual work getting done by the middleware coding, by the database schema team, by integration, testing, and QA. When you begin to see weeks like this ahead of work actually being done, there's probably a local Optima that's going on there. And the local Optima was being done in the engineering group. The engineering group had one team that was responsible for doing all middleware coding for all teams. And so they had huge queues of work building up and people waiting in line to get their work done. Same thing with the database. There was a single database team that was responsible for doing all database work. And same thing with integration and testing. Now, these are all reasonable things in of themselves, but look at what the overall length of time is in order for something to get into production. You can begin to see where the pressures were between the product team and the development team. When the development teams were more optimized for their own operations as opposed to the product team that wanted to optimize for getting software into production. We're going to do one more look at Local Optima and Dominant Local Optima to show where there are other places within inside of the corporate system that causes Local Optima at the corporate level that has a huge impact on what happens with inside of development teams. Stay tuned.